The Raiders didn't practice on Monday, but that did not stop them making from a roster move or two. We'll explain that, plus quarterback tiers are out. We take a look. That plus more on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 12th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome here, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. Show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. Plenty of calls, plenty of texts. We'll try to get to as many as possible as we close out today's show. Segment number 3, we'll do that. Segment number 2, we'll talk about quarterback tiers. And you know, when we get to the quarterback tiers, the NFL season must be right around the corner. Not only is it fantasy football time, but it's tier time. So the Athletic put out their tiers of quarterbacks. They went through tier 1 through 5. We'll explain that coming up in segment number 2. We'll take a look at the entire AFC West. Obviously, we'll take a look at the Raiders and Geno Smith, and we'll revisit the conversation of how many times throughout the course of the regular season will the Raiders have the advantage at the quarterback position according to this tier system put out by The Athletic. We'll do that in segment number 2. Here is segment number 1, news and notes of the day. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The Raiders did not practice on Monday, but they did make a roster move. They signed free agent wide receiver Marquez Callaway. He's a 4-year wide receiver, played in 47 career games since entering the league as an undrafted free agent with the Saints back in 2020. Has 83 career catches for 1,069 yards and 7 TDs. He also returned 14 punts for 149 yards and 4 kickoffs for 94 yards. So last season, he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on their practice squad from week 7 to the end of the season, where he was elevated for 2 games. So in a corresponding move, the Raiders waived wide receiver Kawan Baker. So there's the tie right there. Marquez Callaway, he was with Tampa Bay on their practice squad last year. Where did the Raiders GM come from? Yeah, you got it. Tampa Bay. John Spytek comes from the Jason Light tree there in Tampa Bay. So going back to somewhere where he knows, bringing in somebody that he has already scouted, somebody he already knows what could bring to the table is not a bad thing. And that's what you're going to continue to see as the Raiders make roster moves. That's just what they do. They go where they know. You see that the Raiders made the trade with Jacorian Bennett for Thomas Booker IV, and they have multiple guys in the personnel department from the Philadelphia Eagles. So they went where they knew. Now John Spytek on Monday goes where he knows, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Marquez Callaway, latest wide receiver added to the mix. And look, this is not going to be the last move. This is not saying that this is a final move. You're going to see little tweaks and twists going to the roster. We've talked about it quite a bit. The Raiders are like every other team across the National Football League. They're going to deal with injuries. Hopefully there's none of them are massive. We already saw what happened with Lonnie Johnson Jr., him breaking his fibula, and he's going to be out for a little bit of time, but doesn't sound like that he's going to miss the entire season, which I think is a good thing. But other guys, you know, little bumps and bruises here, walking boot here, walking boot there, that's what they're dealing with. So there you go. Marquez Callaway, latest wide receiver added to the mix, and Kawan Baker has been waived in a corresponding move. Also, more news and notes when it comes to the Silver Black, including former Raider head coach Jon Gruden, who had a win on Monday versus the NFL. Kind of. The Nevada Supreme Court ruled in favor of Jon Gruden in his appeal against the NFL, meaning Gruden will get discovery and his day in court, alleging that Commissioner Roger Goodell and the NFL improperly leaked his emails, leading to his firing as a Raiders head coach. So what happened, the Nevada Supreme Court said that they decided the league could move the civil case into arbitration that might be overseen by Goodell. 2 justices said Gruden knew when he signed a contract with the Raiders that the NFL used arbitration to resolve disputes. The dissenting justice said it would be outrageous for Goodell to arbitrate a dispute in which he was named as a defendant. So Gruden's lawsuit against the NFL will actually be heard in court. His lawsuit alleges that Goodell and the league pressured the Raiders to fire Gruden by leaking emails containing racist, sexist, and anti-gay comments that Gruden sent when he was on air, an analyst at ESPN, about Goodell and others in the NFL, and he resigned from the Raiders back in November 2021. Now, regardless, whatever happens with this case, I know talking to John McClain many times when this whole situation and John Gruden filed these lawsuits, he said, look, the one thing that nobody ever does is win against the NFL. But if anyone could, it would be a guy with a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time on his hands. Well, that's what John Gruden has, a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time. Now, whatever ends up happening in this case, when it's all said and done, none of it will erase the whole situation anyway, right? The leaked emails that were racist, sexist, anti-gay comments that he made as a member of ESPN, he wrote in his emails, right? That'll never erase that. That'll always be something that'll be a stain on John Gruden's name. Now, again, the way that it was obtained and the way that it was leaked, and I say that in air quotes, that's a whole nother situation, but that's going to be for John Gruden and his lawyers to go ahead and fight out in a court of law. And again, according to Monday, with John Gruden winning his appeal against the NFL, he will get discovery and his day in court against Roger Goodell and the NFL. So we'll see where it goes, right? I mean, it doesn't excuse the crime. It doesn't excuse the reason why he had to resign and ultimately get let go by the Silver and Black. It was just what he's arguing is the way that it was all discovered. So, to be continued when it comes to John Gruden and his lawsuit versus Roger Goodell and the NFL. Also wanted to give you an update on the Raiders practice schedule. They will be back at practice today, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30. Practice open to the media. And then at 12:30, we'll get select players in the press conference room will be available then. But on Wednesday, this is where the new twist comes in. Wednesday and Thursday were supposed to be the last 2 days where fans were going to be allowed in attendance. That has changed now to only Thursday. So Wednesday's practice is from 8:45 to 10:30, but they moved it indoors. It's supposed to be one of the hottest days of the summer on Wednesday, so they moved the practice indoors, which means that fans can't be there. So unfortunately, what was only 2 days left for fans to be in attendance is now down to just 1 day. So we'll talk to players around 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday, but again, that'll be after an indoor practice, just like today's practice is also indoors, so no fans will be there. And then on Thursday, joint practice with the 49ers, fans will be allowed to be in attendance 8:45 a.m. to 10:50, and again, they'll be outdoors. We'll talk to head coach Pete Carroll and quarterback Geno Smith, amongst others, following that practice. But had to give an update on that. I found out that a lot of, season ticket holders got emails on Monday saying that Wednesday's practice open to the fans was being canceled, but didn't know that everyone got the memo or whatever. So I wanted to make sure I brought that to the table just in case you planned on heading to the practice facility. It is not open on Wednesday, but it will be on Thursday. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the quarterback tiers. The Athletic put out tiers 1 through 5. We'll explain what those are. We'll explain who's the one who put these quarterbacks in these tiers. Take a look at the AFC West and, of course, Geno Smith. We'll do that all coming up. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to let you know that this episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season's back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. Plenty of shows are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, there's all kind of different ways to go about it, and Yahoo's making it a lot of fun celebrating 28 years of fantasy football greatness. As a matter of fact, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over at 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a great new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season right around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. And if you're more into classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more great announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to jump into the conversation about quarterback tiers as they have been revealed for 2025 by way of The Athletic. My guy Mike Sando does a fantastic job with that each and every year, and it's always a really good conversation piece. And since we did talk earlier in the offseason about the Raiders and how many times they should be favored at the quarterback position throughout the course of their schedule in 2025, I thought it'd be a great time to revisit it. So again, quarterback tiers are in for 2025, 50 NFL coaches and executives. Those are the ones that came together and tiered all these quarterbacks. So tier 1, a tier 1 quarterback can carry his team each week. The team wins because of him. He expertly handles pure passing situation. He has no real holes in his game. Tier 2, a quarterback can carry his team sometimes, but not as consistently. He can handle pure passing situations in doses and or possesses other dimensions that are special enough to elevate him above Tier 3. He has a hole or two in his game. Tier 3, a quarterback is a legit starter, but needs a heavier run game and or defensive component to win. A lower volume drop back passing offense suits him best. Tier 4, quarterback could be an unproven player, not enough information for voters to classify, or a veteran who ideally would not start all 17 games. And then Tier 5, you don't want to be in. A quarterback is best suited as a backup. So those are the tiers right now. In this piece on The Athletic by Mike Sando, Tier 1 has 5 quarterbacks. 1 through 5 are in Tier 1. Tier 2 has 6 through 14, so 8 quarterbacks. Tier 3 has the most quarterbacks, 15 through 25, so 10 of them. Tier 4 is 26 through 33, so that's 7. Tier 5 only has 1. That's quarterback number 34. That's Kenny Pickett. I'll just go ahead and throw that out there to you. That's the only quarterback in that tier. So what does it look like when it comes to the AFC West? All right, we'll start at the bottom. Number 20, the Broncos, Bo Nix, who's also tied with the Seahawks, Sam Darnold. They are both in tier number 3, ranked as the number 20 quarterback. So what they say about Bo Nix, he looks pretty sharp. He knows where to go with the ball. He runs better than you think. He throws better than you think. He looks like he is a good competitor who makes people around him better. That is what quarterbacks have to do. One GM whose team was not in the market to draft a quarterback said Nix was much better than he anticipated. He thought Nix would be a dink and duck quarterback. So he comes in at number 20. Remember, Bo Nix is just now going into year 2 of his career with the Denver Broncos. So I didn't know where these quarterbacks were going to be ranked as far as Bo Nix goes. When we went through the exercise on the schedule, I kept saying that maybe Bo Nix is a little bit better than Geno Smith. Maybe you give him the nod. A lot of people said, no, Q, he's not quite there yet. And some others that I had on as well that covered the league as well said, I don't know if he's quite there yet. So they're giving him some love going into year 2 in Denver, but he still comes in as the 4th quarterback in the AFC West at number 20. Now, when it comes to number 19, the Raiders, Geno Smith. So Geno Smith 1 spot ahead of him. So he's also in tier 3, and he's up, 1.9 spots from 2024. They said Smith making his 3rd consecutive appearance in tier 3, inched up to a career best 2.90 average. But this was more of a case of Smith receiving fewer votes in tier 4 than it was about him commanding more votes in tier 2. They said Geno is pretty good at everything, but nothing stands out as an elite trait. That's what a defensive coordinator said. There's not one X-Man power where you're like, man, F this guy. So there you go. Geno Smith comes in at 19, number 19, tier 3 in these tiers put out in The Athletic. Going up all the way to number 7, so a big jump from 19 to number 7 is where you find Chargers Justin Herbert. He is in tier 2, but he's down from 2024. They say the downward trend for Herbert among tiers voters is clear. After peaking with 36 top-tier votes in 2022, the number has fallen to 29, 19, and now 13. A lot of people have him as automatic 1. Offensive coordinator said, I want him to take it. It seems like he's almost there, but he hasn't really done it. The talent is obvious. He's just a little bit robotic. That's what a defensive coordinator said. You could tell the way he processes everything. It's a click slower than some of the elites, but he is a stud. He's really good. I think that, and we've had arguments and conversations about Justin Herbert here on the show, and a lot of people think I'm just being a hater. I'm not. Exactly what they said. The talent is obvious, right? A lot of people have him as automatic 1. I want him to take it. It seems like he's almost there, but he hasn't really done it. That's all I've ever said about Justin Herbert. He hasn't really done it. So, again, they slide him in at number 7, which is a tier 2 quarterback who can carry his team sometimes, but not as consistently, can handle pure passing situations in doses, and or possesses other dimensions that are special enough to elevate him above tier 3. He has a hole or two in his game. And then that just leaves Patrick Mahomes at number 1. He stays the same for 2024. They say, I think Mahomes is the best quarterback to ever live. That's what an OC said. But the gap is smaller than it was years ago. This is Mahomes' 5th season as a unanimous tier 1 selection. Only Rodgers with 6 has more unanimous selections, and since quarterback tiers debuted in 2014. And this one says Mahomes is the best quarterback in the world. That was a GM. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson had better individual seasons. In fairness, the infrastructure around Patrick has eroded. So there you go. Patrick Mahomes at 1, Justin Herbert at number 7, Geno Smith of the Raiders at number 19, and Bo Nix right behind him at number 20. So with that being said, with all that information that you're processing, now let's go back through the schedule and see how many times the Raiders have the advantage at the QB spot. Again, according to these tiers, not Q's tiers, according to The Athletic that I just went over. So if you're looking at the schedule, week 1 versus New England, boom, they've got the advantage. Drake May comes in also in tier 3, but at number 22. They also have the advantage in week 4. Caleb Williams and the Bears. Caleb Williams comes in right behind Drake May at 22. So he's 23 and tier 3. So Drake May week 1, number 22. Caleb Williams week 4, number 23. Now, in between that, you've got the Chargers and the Washington Commanders. So obviously, Justin Herbert's higher, and so is Jaden Daniels. Then let's see. They go week 6. They got the Colts. Anthony Richardson, right? He's at number 32. He's tier 4. And if you say, yeah, but Q, Anthony Richardson might not be playing. It might be Daniel Jones. Okay, no worry. Daniel Jones is in at number 30, also tier number 4. So the Raiders have the advantage so far in week 1, week 4, and week 6 at the quarterback position, again, according to the athletics tiers when it comes to QBs. Then you have to go all the way up to week 12 versus Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco and the Browns, number 31. And then rookie Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, who could be possibly playing in week 12. They weren't tiered because there's no information on them. They're rookies, so they're not tiered yet. But Joe Flacco, old man Joe, at number 31. So the Raiders would obviously have the advantage with him or any other quarterback that is on that Browns starting roster. And then week 17, Russell Wilson and the G-Men, right? Russell Wilson actually dropped down to tier 4 and is at number 26. So there you go. Week 1, week 4, week 6, week 12, week 17, the Raiders have the advantage over the quarterback. Again, if you're looking at the tiers, according to The Athletic, and then twice against the Denver Broncos because they're one ahead of Bo Nix. So if you're looking at the schedule, the first time they play Denver is week 10. That's at Denver. And then the next time they play Denver is... Where is it? Oh, week 14 at Allegiant Stadium. So then twice there. So all in all, you have 7 games in this upcoming season, right? And obviously things are subject to change, but the way it looks right now, if we're going against the tiers, and since we've had this conversation about how often do the Raiders have the QB advantage in 2025, this would tell you 7 times, if this is exactly true. And again, this is from coaches and from GMs. This is not from my brain. I think I came up with, 8 or 9? I can't remember 100% what I came up with, but I think it was around 8 or 9. So somewhere I must have, let's try to think where I went. Maybe, I don't think it was her. Oh, I know I had a question about CJ Stroud, if he was going to take a step back, and get back into the good graces and play better than he did in year 2. Obviously, his offensive line was trash. And then, I know Jacksonville, that Sunday, November 2nd, that week 9 game, I questioned Trevor Lawrence because, to me, he hasn't been all that, but he does have Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously, he's got Travis Hunter. They're believing that Liam Cohen is going to be the guy to open up Trevor Lawrence. I know we've heard that before, but again, I'm not basing this off of me. I'm basing it off of the Athletics. So if what they are saying, coaches and GMs, then Trevor Lawrence is ranked a little bit higher. Not much. He's in tier 3 as well. He's just a little bit higher than Geno Smith. So that's why when I went for 9 times that the Raiders would have the advantage of the quarterback spot, it comes down to 7. So I was pretty close. I wasn't that far off, so I don't feel too bad at all. But I do find it pretty interesting. If you want to go check out the article, again, it's in The Athletic. I'll probably get Mike Sando on my radio show in the next few days or so. I usually always do, to talk about it. And like I said, I think it's good because it's not just him sitting, in his office at the house coming up with something and just throwing something against the wall and hoping that it sticks. This is actually talking to coaches and executives, right? GMs, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, head coaches, whatever the case may be, and getting their opinions. And obviously they're in there. They're in the trenches each and every week. So I think you could appreciate that. I know I can appreciate that. But when you're looking at the tiers for the AFC West, Mahomes is in the number 1 tier, which is elite, in tier 1. Chargers, Justin Herbert's in tier 2. Geno Smith and Bo Nix both in tier 3, respectively, at number 19 and number 20. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show. 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, I want to tell you about another great sponsor here on the show, and that is FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Take a flyer on the MVP race, right? That could be a lot of fun. Who do you think it could be? Could Jaden Daniels take that next step only in year 2, or does he take a step back? We know it's a quarterback award, right? Does Lamar Jackson get it again in the regular season and then flame out in the playoffs? Right? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, does he return there? What quarterback is going to get that? Because that's what it's going to be. And who's going to be in the championship games, AFC and NFC? And then, of course, there's always parlays that you could be a part of as well. Right now, visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bet now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Be-Easy Raider in San Antonio. He's calling to give a few thoughts on the team, including a few low-key red flags he has. Here he is, Be-Easy Raider in San Antonio.
Hey, Q. This is a Be-Easy Raider calling out of San Antonio, Texas. Just obviously always appreciate everything you do for Raider Nation, keeping us well informed. Just had a few thoughts. I haven't called in too much. Been very optimistic, very positive about the offseason. I'm liking the direction of the team. But there are some things that have kind of, come up as low-key red flags. And so I appreciate you keeping it real. Like, there's a lot of Raider coverage where everything they do, nothing is questioned. It's just, all rainbows and candy and everything's great. Every move they make, no question. This staff knows what they're doing. And I appreciate listening to the show. You will question things. You're optimistic too, and you're positive and happy. But when there's some things that seem a little goofy, you're not afraid to speak on it. Been happy with everything. Preseason game, not really. I'm still positive. That didn't really damper any outlook I have on the future of this season. Still pretty positive. Think they'll have a really good season. Couple things that make me nervous: the DeCorian Bennett, that trade. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. From all the reports on how good he was doing in practice, don't like that everything's preaching competition, but it doesn't seem like he got a fair shake. I don't think he was outperformed. I feel like from everything I've heard, all the reports about practice. Yeah, he's had his injury history, but he's a very, very good corner when he's healthy. And I don't think he got a fair shake. I feel like they elevated people above him. He even kept the right attitude on that, and they still kind of shipped him. But, it is what it is. Hopefully, we did need a D-tackle. But that's one thing that kind of, is it really true comp or is it just preference? All right. Another thing is I hope we don't see this has worried me from the very early beginning of the offseason. I hope we don't miss Spillane terribly. And I hope we don't go over there and kill it in New England. That was another thing where I'm he kind of earned it. Defensive captain, sure tackler. We're tackling look rough, but again, it's preseason. But, Spillane was, along with Max, the heart of that defense. And that did, make the hairs on my neck stand up a little bit watching that preseason game. Damn, it really would have been nice to have a plus middle linebacker that, But anyway, that's it. Just a few thoughts. Again, still pretty positive about the season. Looking forward to it. Raider Nation all day. Calling out to San Antonio. We out.
Be easy. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you as always, my man. And Ja'Cory Bennett trade and his play, that's always been a weird subject. And it's not a weird subject because I don't want to talk about it. It was just one of those that as we observe practice each and every day, we just always never really understood what was going on. We always kept wondering, why is he running with the twos? Well, why is he running with the threes? And, there was times, and I've said it many times on this show, he didn't look 100% comfortable in the technique that they were asking him to play. But as we all saw last year, still thought he was a really good corner and could provide some depth. I just have to assume they didn't like what they saw. And I just have to trust that they're going to be right on that. Now, we'll find out sooner rather than later, right? The proof will be in the pudding somehow, some way. I think he's going to go to Philadelphia and have a good chance to be a really good corner. But again, that's just my gut feeling. So we'll see. As far as Spillane, even Trayvon Merrick, Nate Hobbs, guys like that, I understood this staff was not going to give up big money in free agency. And all those guys I just mentioned got big money in free agency. That was not going to happen with this staff. They looked at that roster. They weren't overly impressed and didn't want to roll the money out like that. As far as linebackers go, I was concerned about it, but I think it's going to be okay. And I know it wasn't a great showing in preseason game number 1, but I'm not going to take too much from preseason game number 1. I think it's going to be fine. E-Rob is going to be really good, I do believe. Devin White, hopefully, he's able to be really good. Jermaine Pratt, he's a tackling machine. And then, of course, they've got Jamal Adams, and that guy stays healthy. Man, look out. That dude looked the best out of all the linebackers in preseason game number 1. And, again, you don't want to get too high or too low, with, success or failure. So I want to continue to monitor that. But, man, if Jamal Adams could be that guy and be healthy and be the guy that he was a few years ago, man, he's a heck of a chess piece for Patrick Graham in that defense. So I think the linebacking room is going to be okay, and we'll see what the secondary looks like now that Jacorian Bennett is in Philadelphia, and you got Thomas Booker IV as a member of the Silver and Black. And at least Booker showed up on Thursday, even though he'd only been with the team for a quick minute. He still showed up and made his presence felt in that game. So we'll see how he could develop with this team this week. But thanks so much for the call. Thanks for starting us off. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from 360 Raider. It's a pretty lengthy one. What's up, Q? 360 Raider here. It's been a minute. Hey, just some food for thought to fans based on some of the calls in yesterday's show. First, thank you for your service. You know who you are. And to the thought that the Raiders should get rid of Aiden O'Connell even as a backup, he has seen significant playing time the last 2 years. He's on a rookie contract and proven he could fill in for a game or two if needed. Also, I'm pretty sure Chip Kelly could work the offense to his strengths. You keep Aiden O'Connell at least one more year. Second, to the caller that said looked like the Raiders were playing slow, almost to avoid injury, I agree. The effort of the first team wasn't there, and for the first preseason game of the year, I could live with that. Lastly, and sorry if I'm peeing in your morning Wheaties Nation, but the biggest complaint about Pete Carroll in Seattle was about the offensive line. Remember Gabe Jackson and how good of a guard he was for the Raiders? Yeah, not so stellar in Seattle. I'm not sure why Pete really had a hard time putting together a solid offensive line. They sucked. So let's just hope that the trend isn't continued. With all that being said, and I've said plenty, have a great day, Nation. Love your show, Q. You're absolutely killing it. Go Raiders. That's 360 Raider. And yeah, it's funny. I keep thinking about that offensive line in Seattle and how many years I would talk to someone from Seattle and ask questions about the offensive line. And my misconception was they didn't spend a lot of assets and capital on the offensive line when, in fact, they did. They just didn't get the right guys. So that could just be an area where they're just not really good. And the other thing that I guess is a positive for Raider Nation when it comes to the offensive line, their offensive line in Seattle wasn't very good, but somehow in like week 8 or week 9, they would be playing some good ball. And the offensive line somehow, some way would be making it work. Now, that's not a good recipe. You don't want to limp into week 8 and hope that you can survive and your quarterback and your playmakers can survive until then. But somehow, some way in Seattle, they seemed like they were able to make things work, even though their offensive line was suspect. I'm not hoping that that's the case, right? To maximize Genty, to maximize Geno, to maximize the other weapons that we've talked about, that offensive line has got to be on point. And I'm hoping it can come together sooner rather than later. I know that this is not something that, Rome was not built overnight. So I know it's not going to, all of a sudden Saturday is going to be over and they'll be like, man, that was it. That starting 5 offensive linemen are fantastic. Like, that's not how it's going to work. I just hope that it doesn't leak into the regular season and they're still, on the fence about who their starting 5 should be. That's going to be my biggest concern. As far as Aiden O'Connell, I agree with you 100%. I think he has at least one more year with the Silver and Black. There's no reason to rush Cam Miller out there. Let him continue to grow, right? I mean, he's got 4 years on his deal. Aiden O'Connell has 2 years left on his deal. Why not go ahead and let him ride for a minute? And then, Cam Miller could be there for the next handful of years, and they somewhat reset the backup quarterback market. I don't think you need to rush Cam Miller out there based off what you saw in the last 7 minutes of preseason game number 1. That's definitely not enough. But thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Jacob in Wilmington, North Carolina. He's been thinking about the game on Thursday, checking out a few national shows, and had a thought that led him back to the Silver and Black. Here's Jacob in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Hey, Q. Hey, Ari. Hey, Raider Nation. This is Jacob Maza from Wilmington, North Carolina. I've been thinking about the game, been thinking about it a good long bit. So I've been, looking at the other ESPN shows, and one of the things that reminded me of us was Aiden Hutchinson for the Detroit Lions. He's blowing up every single play, right? And they can't have practice because of it. And, it reminds me of Max Crosby a lot, and the same thing that Antonio Pierce said. And I was just thinking, if we got such a dominant player like that, and we have an O-line that is really shaky, then I would like for the Raiders to run 3 plays, each one of them directly at Max Crosby. If you can dominate Max Crosby, you can dominate any player in the NFL. And if our O-line is going to grow together, then that's how I'd kind of like to see training camp evolve. I know we got the 49ers coming in, and the 49ers are very talented at doing offensive schemes. So I really am excited to see this week's preseason. I think last week was just, hey, let's get our guys out on the field. Let's play man. Let's play basic. Let's not show anything. And Seattle took a completely different approach. I expect a big difference in the way our team plays this preseason. I'm going to chalk it up. I'm going to chalk up the last preseason game. And I think Aiden O'Connell's going to ball out. I think we're going to show up and we're going to show out, either if we're playing in Santa Clara or in Las Vegas. Anyways, this is a big week. Everybody chalk last week up. Last week was last week. That was in the past. This week, I think we're going to see some Raiders ball. I'm looking forward to it. Everybody, let's have a great week. What's up? Later.
Big Jacob, thanks so much for the call. It's always great to hear from you. And yeah, the team definitely went basic, right? Showed absolutely nothing. That's what Pete Carroll even said when he met with the media on Friday by way of Zoom. They didn't show anything. He thinks it gives them an advantage by not tipping their hand to anything that they want to do. Seattle, on the other hand, they did scheme. So, I mean, we can look at it and say, hey, they looked a lot better than the Raiders. Well, they were scheming up a lot of different looks that they were trying to give as well. I didn't have an issue with any of that. My issues came from the mental mistakes, the missed tackles, bad angles, pre-snap penalties, right? And missed tackles, those were just fundamentals. So, I had someone hit me. I was like, hey, man, are you now down on the team after that? No, I'm not down. I just don't like the mental mistakes those are just clearly your own errors, right? Pre-snap penalties, that's exactly what those are. Pre-snap, that's not okay. Bad angles, that's just fundamental football, right? Maintaining the edge is that's fundamental football. And missed tackles, same thing, right? These guys got to know to wrap up. Devin White can't go high for a tackle. It's not going to work in the National Football League. These guys are too big and fast and strong. They'll run right through those arm tackles, and they'll take your arm with you, right? You want to talk about getting injured? That's how you get injured. Try to olay a tackle, and all of a sudden somebody runs through it. That's again, basic football. That's the stuff that bothers me, and hopefully that's a lot cleaner come Saturday, even on a Thursday when they have the joint practice with the 49ers. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Got time for just a couple more. This text is from Voodoo Rick 66. Hey, Q, I think everything is fixable with one big exception. Aiden O'Connell is not a viable backup quarterback. He made the same mistakes he's always made. I don't believe any more that his growth ability. Minshew and Bradley both outplayed Aiden O'Connell in their games. I hope nothing happens to Geno because O'Connell will get somebody hurt with his poor play. Carson Wentz is sitting out there on a golf course somewhere. Maybe it's time to talk to him. Thanks for what you do. Voodoo Rick 66. And thanks for the text. I do appreciate you. I just do think that's an overreaction. I don't think Aiden O'Connell is the end-all be-all. I've never thought Aiden O'Connell was the end-all be-all, but I do think that he has ability. And I do think when he sets his feet, when he gets time, and he's very confident with his arm, he can get the ball there. But the things, like you said, he continues to do, stare down the receivers, he's always done that. And that is a problem. That's going to, get someone hurt, but more importantly, it's going to create a lot of turnovers. Guys are going to see where the ball is coming, they're going to break on it, and they're going to go the other way. We've seen that happen time and time again. I obviously hope nothing happens to Geno Smith either. I do think Aiden O'Connell is the better option for the backup this year because Cam Miller, remember, is still very, very young. He's coming from the FCS. There's a lot that he's got to learn. Not saying he can't. He's a very coachable dude. He's a coach's son, right? He's played in very meaningful games in college. I mean, think about this. This dude was in the FCS, but he's at North Dakota State, which is the most successful college program in the FCS. 67 career starts, and a lot of those were so important of games where other quarterbacks, even Aiden O'Connell, not trying to, poo-poo on him, but if you go through all his games he played at Purdue, how many of them were like meaningful championship style, make the playoffs, go on a run games? Or how many of them were just playing out the schedule, right? I mean, I know every game means something. Like I said, I'm not trying to downplay that, but what Cam Miller was playing at North Dakota State were games that really mattered when it was at the end-all be-all because they knew a championship was on the line. So that's something to pay attention to as well. With all that being said, I still don't think Cam Miller is ready to take the backup quarterback spot this year. I can see it next year for sure, but I can't see it this year. So thanks so much for that. And Carson Wentz, yeah, go ahead and let him chill out there on that golf course. That's okay. Up next, got a call from Brian in Pittsburgh. He's calling to talk about the incident with Geno Smith and the fan in Seattle with the sign that talked about Geno or Jamarcus as the bigger bust and what eventually happened with Geno and Max Crosby. Here's Brian in Pittsburgh.
What's up, Q? It's Brian in Pittsburgh here. Just want a quick call today. Heard about, listening to the pod this morning and about Gino giving them, I know you call it the middle finger salute, but since I was in grade school back in the early 2000s, me and my dad has always called that the Raider salute. So, that fan in particular, I remember a couple years ago when he was holding some sign. I don't know what it said, but he does it every game. I think it's kind of a jokingly type of deal. I think the fan really doesn't mean any harm or anything like that, but I can see how, some of the players that get under their skin. The only reason I'm saying that is because that game, that sign was, I think it was held up for, and it said something about Josh Jacobs, something like that. Well, we all know what Josh did that game. He pretty much single-handedly beat the Seahawks himself. And after the game, I think it was like Josh, Derek, maybe Max, I don't know, but they were all over there talking to the guy. Josh shook his hand, things like that. They had a chat. Dude tapped him on his helmet. So I don't think the guy means any harm. But like I said, if I was a player, yeah, I'd be pissed and I'd give him the Raiders salute every single time. But hey, that's FanDuel. I'm sure there's been a lot worse things said around the league. None of them players ever want to walk into Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, I'll tell you that much, because people think that was bad. Walk in there, make some bad calls, refs. You'll see some D-cell-sized batteries coming down on the field. Man, I miss those days. All right, Q. Got a month till kickoff, man. I'm gearing up. I got my flight booked for the home opener Monday night. Good to see all my boys out there at the tailgate in Vegas. I can't wait. Cannot wait. Raiders got me roped in again. Here we go. All right. Raiders.
Big Brian, thanks for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, I mean, the word on the fan in Seattle, he is very notorious for trying to get under players' skin, right? He's been doing that for years. And I like the fact that Pete Carroll was trying to jump up and grab the sign. I mean, this is, again, we talk about Pete Carroll's age all the time. It's a 73-year-old man that was jumping up trying to snatch that sign. And then on Sunday when he talked to the media and Ryan McFadden from ESPN asked him, hey, do you have anything to comment on? He's like, hey, did you see the sign? Yeah, I read the sign. Okay, well, no comment. Next question. Like, okay. So he had his back. He knows what that fan is all about. He's just one of those guys, professional heckler. We see him all the time. What was it, Robin Thicke? I was trying to come up with his name the other day, and I couldn't remember it, but he was the one that was so famous in Washington all the time. He passed away now, but he was the one that had like the whole book on everything that you've ever done in your life, and he would sit behind the bench at the basketball games and just give you the business, to the point where, and Vinny Bonsignore shared this story with me the other day when, he was covering the Lakers and he was working with the Lakers. There was some times when players didn't even want to play in the game because they didn't want to be on the bench because they knew that dude was going to be sitting right behind them in their ear the whole time. So, yeah, there's guys like that are those professional hecklers, and that fan in Seattle just happens to be one of them. So thanks for the call. Thanks for the clarification. And, yeah, man, it's okay to get amped up. That Monday night home opener versus the Chargers, it's going to be fantastic. That's a divisional game. It's a opponent, a divisional opponent, a arch rival. And, oh, by the way, the head coaches are rivals too, and Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll. Yeah, sign me up for Monday Night Football. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Cannot wait for that as well. Up next, and we'll close out with this one, a text from Southern Indiana Raider. Hey, Q, Southern Indiana Raider here. I'm now cooled down and back to reality. I was shocked to see that ugly play from a Pete Carroll team, and I got angry. I overreacted. Guilty as charged. I've been a diehard fan of the team since '74. I am sick of losing. I admit that I'm quick to get mad at them. They've burned us fans for over 2 decades. I'm not getting younger. Would like to see them be the Raiders again. Thanks again for all that you do, Southern Indiana Raider. And look, I get it. I absolutely 100% get it. I know why fans get mad, right? I know all the times that I got mad. I have a different perspective on it now where I refuse to do that to my family, to be angry and be the guy where they don't want to be around me. So I've learned to not be that guy. And, of course, covering the team like I do on the daily and being around the facility all the time and, having the rules that we have in the press box and the way that we have to act to a certain extent. We can't be cheering for the team in the press box. I've learned to be able to channel that. As I just got a little bit older, right? Just got a little bit older and, like real life things have gone on and it made me help put things in perspective as well. But yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. I say it all the time. All these years of losing, right? The coaches have changed, players have changed, the GMs have come and go. Like everyone comes and go. The only thing that hasn't changed is the fan base. Raider Nation is still here through and through, right? From day one till the end, right? what is it? Win, lose, or tie, Raider till I die. I mean, that's just what it is. So I get it, right? I mean, all these other guys have options. They can go sign free agent deals somewhere else. They could bounce. But Raider Nation, you ain't signing no free agent deal with another team. You ain't going nowhere else. Yeah, I'm going to sign up to be a fan of insert team. That ain't happening, right? Even when you say it's happening, it ain't happening. So I get it. I understand why any fan gets upset and fired up and angry because, look, again, that fan is short for fanatic. And that's exactly what it is. But Southern Indiana Raider, thanks so much for that text. Do appreciate you. Got a text from Refrigerator Raider we'll get to tomorrow. Isaiah Raider in the 509 we'll get to tomorrow. Got more calls as well. We'll talk about practice. Talking about practice? Not a game. We're talking about practice. I mean, practice? Anyway, practice is today, so we'll talk about what was seen, what was heard. There's other conversation pieces that we'll have as well. Looking forward to an exciting week, knowing that the 49ers are coming to town for joint practice on Thursday. So we'll keep this party rolling, the electric circus, like my man Freddie Coleman from ESPN likes to say. We'll do that more tomorrow. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.